Hey everyone. So I want to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. Add my 2 cents to the big conversation that's already going on right now. A lot of controversy surrounding the game. A lot of people going back and forth with it, the good and the bad. So, hey, here's my take on it. So, first of all, I'll say that the leap to the Switch is actually kind of a cool thing. Kind of a cool thing. The big issue here is, for me, while the visuals of the game, Sword and Shield, are good, that's kind of the issue. They're just good. You know, I have to agree with everyone else that the visuals for Sword and Shield are just kind of a half step up from what you see in the 3DS, and they don't look that much better than what Sun and Moon did on 3DS. They look better, yes, technically they do, but not that much better. A lot of people have said that if you compare Pokemon Sword and Shield to Super Mario Odyssey or The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Sword and Shield comes off looking very mediocre. You add that into uh, the Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's not the game that is not visually demanding for the Switch, but is something that looks very, very nice. Which, while Sword and Shield does also look nice, it doesn't come close to anything that you'd see in either of those three games that I just mentioned. They all kind of put Sword and Shield to shame. And while graphics are not the be all end all for a game, no matter what kind of game it is, you have to admit that at this point in the Switch's life cycle, we're about 3 years into the Switch's life cycle now, give or take, and early on we got Super Mario Odyssey and we got Breath of the Wild, and then eventually not only did we get Fire Emblem Three Houses, we also got games like LA Noire on the Switch, or Mortal Kombat 11, or The Witcher 3, or Skyrim. Sword and Shield just come off looking lacking, you know. And obviously, Pokemon has never really tried to go for a more realistic look, like say Skyrim or The Witcher or something like that, or LA Noire or Mortal Kombat. It's never gone for a realistic look, and that's fine. But neither did something like, well, let's say Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts 3 is the most lifelike looking of any of the games, but also because since it kind of stuck to its cartoonish style, it still ends up looking, you know, very, very good. It looks like a kind of weird combination of being realistic and also cartoonish at the same time, especially depending on where you are in the game, what world you're in. And if Pokemon had gone for kind of a visual style like that, it probably would have been much, much better. But again, graphics on anything, on everything. But it's disappointing that Pokemon Sword and Shield did not try to go for something more than what we got. It's decent where it is, but it's far below what a lot of people were expecting and hoping for from the games. There are, of course, also kind of the weird things, the pop-ins, the how the entire world will freeze if you climb up a ladder or something like that. Those are all very strange things, which definitely need to be improved on. I don't know if a software update can actually fix that stuff. Maybe it can. It should be able to, but I doubt that Game Freak will do that, because their track record thus far with all their games, more or less, has been to kind of put it out and then hope for the best. They have updated games here and there when they've actually needed to for game-breaking things, but technically speaking, pop-ins and the whole world freezing when you walk up and down a ladder, move up and down a ladder rather. That's not anything game-breaking, so it's kind of that's kind of in the don't worry about it pile. To I guess when it comes to software development. So I guess we have to stick with that. But it is very jarring to see walking around and seeing Pokemon and people pop in and out of existence in the world. It's not a deal breaker, of course, but it's bothersome. It's jarring. It's noticeable. You can clearly see it in front of you. There's no way to kind of hide it or to disregard it. Other games kind of pop in much better. Breath of the Wild does pop in here and there too, but the way that's done there, still noticeable, but I feel tolerable. The way kind of things will kind of fade in and out. trees and grass textures, they kind of fade in as you get closer to them, rather than just popping into existence like kind of like an explosion almost, or then shrinking out of existence when you get far away from them. With Pokemon, that's Sword and Shield anyway. That's way too noticeable. Not a deal breaker, but yeah, something noticeable. I think another negative I have to put out here is the story for Sword and Shield is probably, how can I put this? I think I guess it is like the fourth worst in the series. I mean, if I had to actually rank this game's stories from worst to best, I'd have to say like at the bottom would definitely be Red and Blue, believe it or not. I mean, I don't think anyone can even argue that, honestly. Red and Blue's story was paper thin. It was just kind of an excuse to get you out in the world, go around collecting Pokemon, traveling, battling other trainers and everything. There wasn't really much of a story there to begin with, and kind of fine for being the first outing of the series back in the mid to late 90s. So I think people kind of let that slide. I would say Gold and Silver probably had a better story than that. Still kind of paper thin, but there was still a little bit more going on when it came to like Team Rocket coming back and interfering with things. Not much, but it was a little more substantial than what we had with Red and Blue, but just a little bit. Then I would say X and Y had the absolute. Okay, so when it comes to actually having a full story in the games, unlike with Red and Blue and Gold and Silver, which is kind of excuse plots just to get you out there into the world, X and Y's was the worst. Very paper thin, and just the villain's motivations were very base and kind of one-dimensional. Lysander wasn't much of a villain, so it comes off as just bland, honestly. But I think some people let that slide because it was the first 3D Pokemon game. And then we get to Sword and Shield. Technically speaking, better than those first three I just mentioned, but not a whole lot. Team Yell was completely ineffectual in this game. I mean, it's an interesting change of pace to kind of what their role in the game was. I don't want to spoil anything here. Well, I don't want to spoil anything here for anyone who also wants to play the game. But for what Team Yell's purpose in the game was interesting. And then later on in the game, when you find out the origins, another interesting twist, which I didn't dislike. I found that kind of a very interesting change of pace for a Pokemon game. But like, it's sort of weird. Like, if you take Team Yell out of the game entirely, like almost all of it kind of stays the same. They were Marnie's cheerleading squad, basically, the entire team. Other than, I guess, their de facto leader. Well, he kind of was too, but that's another story. But if you just took them out and just had a bunch of random NPCs being Marnie's cheerleading squad, kind of nothing changes in that respect. I mean, so I guess to that point, Team Yell is kind of the worst villain team. They weren't even really a villainous team. They were just, they're just kind of a roadblock here and there. So I don't know how to describe it. Like, they were unnecessary, but you know, every Pokemon game has to have a villain team, right? So they kind of had to be there, but like their implementation was just not good, I gotta say. Also, it's kind of interesting how the game's main plot doesn't actually kick in until basically the end of the game. Like, right before you're about to fight the champion is when the game's villain finally reveals themselves and try to put their plan into action, which you completely crush in just a matter of, another 15 minutes playing? Actually, no, more than that, but like, not that much more playing the game, and then everything's done. So, and also, when you defeat the villainous leader, they just kind of resign themselves to loss. And then you go deal with the legendary Pokemon of the game, and then that ends. And also, the bad guy turns himself in, too. So, it's as I'm doing this video, I'm really realizing that the game's plot really was just incredibly stupid. I mean, like as annoying as the changes in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were compared to what were in the original Sun and Moon, like that was better than what we got in Sword and Shield. I don't know what to say, honestly. Also, having just 3 legendary Pokemon in the game, that sucks. Like, that's the fewest amount of legendary Pokemon in any game, even fewer than X and Y. X and Y, technically, they only had 3 legendaries you could catch in game, but they did have another 3 as part of events. And apparently Game Freak did mention they're going to have a 4th event Pokemon, rather a 4th legendary Pokemon that's going to be introduced via a Nintendo event. Great, but I have to agree with everyone on this, and this is kind of something I realized myself too. Event Pokemon kind of mean nothing these days. Like, I don't remember the event Pokemon for Black and White exactly. I have to go back and look at that, other than Victini, I think. But I think starting around Gen 5 is when event Pokemon were just kind of just... It's cool to get new Pokemon in, but they're like a nothing addition to the universe lore. You know, like Deoxys and Jirachi are these space Pokemon that come to the planet, and you have to battle them. In Deoxys' case, anyway, you have to battle them. You got event tickets to go to islands to catch Lugia and Ho-Oh and to catch Mew and everything, and you know, just by nature of those islands, what you find there, it's this big mystery that you're stumbling into. And then, you know, Gen 4, you got events for Darkrai, events for Arceus, which is never done outside of Japan for some reason. Different ways to go about getting that Manaphy and Fione, you know, stuff like that. It was just, you know, stuff like that added to the games. These big in-game events that you had to do, it added to the mystery of the Pokemon world and kind of expanded it in its own way, you know. But I remember like Gen 6, they just kind of stopped giving a fuck and just like, here you go, here's the Pokemon, there you go, you can have it now. Like Hooper, for instance, I got Hooper, and even though there are some hints at Hooper in a couple of places in X and Y, it's just a couple of hints, and then you finally get Hooper itself. There's no big in-game event to get it. No like story that happens or something like. Kind of like with Shaman back in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. When you get the event to get Shaman, you meet Professor Oak. And then you talk to Professor Oak for a bit. Then you go to the Flower Paradise where Shaman is. It's a very big long path to get to it. And catch it. And Hooper is kind of in the same idea. This small little fairy or pixie Pokemon. You know, Mew, Celebi, Jirachi. You know, but there's nothing behind it. You just download it from a Nintendo event, and then it's in your collection now. You have Hooper. And that's it. No big story behind it other than the movie that they did, which I never did see, actually. I need to get around to seeing that. Catch up with all the Pokemon movies, actually. So, it's like, when you look back at like what Gen 6 and even Gen 7 did, while we all getting a new Pokemon for Gen 8, a new event Pokemon, which I'm pretty sure it's a new Legendary too, cool, I guess, but judging by Game Freak's track record, it's just going to be given to us, and there's going to be no fanfare behind it. They're just going to, here you go, new Pokemon, have fun with it. Which, okay, I guess, but that's kind of disappointing, that there's nothing behind it. This is just you handing people a legendary Pokemon. I'll take it, I guess, but the fun with legendary Pokemon and event Pokemon in general is just gone. And I really wish Game Freak would go further with that, which again adds back to what I was saying before, how the story for Gen 6 was really thin, X and Y anyway, and then the story for Gen 8 was really thin too, so Gen 7 story was slightly better, but no, it was better than what we have for, I think, 6 and 8 anyway. Okay, so now for some positives. One thing I do like about Gen 8, I much prefer the Galar region compared to the Alola region. Personally, I was not much of a fan of an entire tropical region to explore. You know, a tropical area is fine to me, but the entire region being tropical, being these 4 connected islands, that wore out its welcome with me for like fairly quickly. And I do know there were several areas within those islands that were a little bit different, not just complete tropical islands. There was a desert area, which kind of odd for an island to have that, I think. I mean, I do get that. I do get that, like, Hoenn had a desert area and also a tropical jungle itself, but I think that was kind of back when they were trying to make every region kind of varied to a certain extent. You know, have the typical icy area or desert area or kind of a stormy area, raining area, which is kind of, that's basically the entire tropical jungle area around Fortree City and everything. And, you know, Alola had a desert, it had a volcanic region too, and that's great and everything, but the vast majority of the regions was tropical, which to me, that just I got tired of seeing nothing but tropical area over and over and over again. And so I'm glad that with Galar region we got more than that. The entire region is far more varied, bringing it sort of in line with some of the past games. I think it was starting with Ruby and Sapphire when they started making the regions a little more varied. You know, every so often as you're exploring to make, you know, so things don't get too dull, which is the one. Not color template, but temperature, regional temperature, environment. That's what I'm looking for. You know, and it's really cool that the wild area too. Great idea, I think. These big, expansive areas we can go around finding Pokemon, and for once we have a controllable camera for the franchise. I think the entire franchise. I don't think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think there's been a single Pokemon game with a controllable camera like that we've seen, other than what we've seen in Sword and Shield. The wild area definitely needs it since it's so expansive, and it's cool to finally be able to, like, in that little area, the wild area is this kind of this big expansive. It really makes the game more open, which I very much appreciate. And coinciding with that, another thing I do like, and I was kind of on the fence about this, like to be honest. I never did get a chance to play Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, mainly because, like with a lot of people, I kind of looked at Pikachu and Eevee kind of like, okay, this is kind of the holdover game until we get the real Pokemon game down the line, Generation 8, and so I never touched them. But I do know that Pikachu and Eevee introduced the kind of idea of Pokemon just wandering around the overworld and you run into them, which at first, I wasn't against that, but like I had to try that out myself. And again, I didn't play Pikachu and Eevee, so I couldn't try it out until Sword and Shield. Playing Sword and Shield, you know what? I'm fully on board with it. Having having Pokemon wander around, and even still having some random encounters in the grass with certain Pokemon kind of leaping out at you, or Pokemon you have to go and find on your own. That kind of combination of the two, I'm all for that. It's really cool seeing Gyarados swimming in the lake, or kind of frightening seeing a Golurk wandering around on its own, or seeing Glalie wander around on its own, or seeing Steelix kind of fly through the desert, just through the. That's kind of frightening to see. Cool at the same time, but kind of frightening to see. So I'm all for that. Like, if we ever do get like Diamond and Pearl remakes, or going forward we get the Gen 9 Pokemon games, keep that. But at the same time, I would say for like the Gen 9 Pokemon games, make it an actual big open world, like, you know, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, you know, kind of like that. I did like that character customization came back. That very much seems like it's going to be a permanent staple. As my phone goes off. That seems like it's going to be a permanent staple for the series as things go on, which I hope it's going to be the case, because when they did Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they took out character customization, and people did not like that, and then they brought it back in Sun and Moon. I hope it sticks around. I love seeing new costumes, clothes, anything that I can get, and it would be kind of cool to kind of see maybe Old Clothes make a comeback, just so you can have a bunch of different combinations of different outfits. Not something that we need, but just my own personal hope. Sometimes we'll get to the point where Game Freak can't think of any more clothes, so they will start doing that, just bring back some old clothes here and there, which that's fine by me. I'm fine seeing that happen. The new gym leaders are really cool, especially the music that plays. Like, one thing I will say is it really is cool that for Sword and Shield, going through the Gym Leader Challenge is treated as this huge national competition. I always find it kind of weird in past games where like it always seems like you're the only Pokemon trainer actually going through the gyms, and you and your rival going through the gyms. So it was kind of cool that now it's this big like national sport that the Galar region celebrates, and it's kind of cool seeing Pokemon trainers that all together from the start of the game, and then as you go on, you see less and less of them, and people start to know you more and more. Your name and face start being known more and more. So that's really cool. I love that addition, and I hope that comes back in like in future games too. And it's also really cool how the battle against the gym leader is this huge stadium. Everyone's sitting there cheering for you as you're going on. I love it. That's such a great thing to have. I don't know if I need that specifically to come back for future games, but at least for Sword and Shield, I loved that. Especially how like every trainer or every important trainer anyway has these training cards of themselves. You know, these soccer card, football cards, sports cards, whatever you want to call it. Kind of cool thing to kind of collect. Again, that I kind of want to see that come back. Like, that kind of reminds me of the trainer's eyes in Ruby and Sapphire with the Pokénav. Gives you those small little bits of information for certain trainers that you come across, including gym leaders and Elite Four members. I want to see some. Again, I want to see something like that come back in a future game, like the trading cards, or maybe like I don't know, a social media bio thing or something, you know, for something like that. I don't know, but it's the little things that they add that actually enhance the experience, and you know the big stadiums and the those trainer cards that you can collect and everything, and also like the like every single gym had this weird puzzle you had to solve too. Like that was great. I loved it. Every single part of the Gym Leader Challenge I loved every single second of it, and I hope they bring that kind of feeling back for a future game in the franchise. Did not like Dynamaxing though. For one more negative thing. So I've said it before, but I never cared for Mega Evolutions. To me, Mega Evolutions was just Game Freak's way of saying they've run out of ideas, so they just decided, fuck it, let them be Digimon at this point. I know a lot of people liked Mega Evolutions. Personally, I did not like them. It would have been much better to me to either come up with like new branched evolutions that would incorporate the Mega Evolutions. You know, like I believe Mega Sceptile was Grass and Dragon, so you could have had like Grovyle evolve either into Sceptile with maybe like a new ability to kind of boost itself up, and maybe increase its stats too, or into I don't know what you would call Mega Sceptile. There was a branched evolution instead of a Mega Evolution, but you know, this other evolution now it's Grass and Dragon with a different ability and maybe different stat distributions and stuff like that. That to me that would have been better. I know a lot of people like Mega Evolutions, but I didn't. I did like Z moves. Like, Z moves made more sense to me to have this kind of giant, last-ditch effort Hail Mary attack for Pokemon to use. Could have done without the dancing though. That was kind of. I get it. It's island culture for the dancing and everything, but it's kind of lame to me. But Game Freak decided to take both of those out for Dynamaxing and in some cases Gigantamaxing, in which some Pokemon, when they become huge giants, they have different forms to them, not just becoming big. I think that kind of falls into the same category as Mega Evolutions for me. You know, Game Freak has run out of ideas, so they just did this. And Dynamaxing is supposed to be Game Freak's way of combining Mega Evolutions and Z moves, and I think the majority of people just didn't like Dynamaxing. Maybe not at first, at least. To me, it's whatever. I'd rather not have it. Oh well, I'd rather have it than not have it. I don't know. It seems to me it's just a gimmick for Gen 8 that I'm pretty sure Game Freak is going to drop come Gen 9. Because they have specifically said that Dynamaxing is a Galar region thing. They have given an in-universe explanation for why that's only a Galar region thing, but I think that's also Game Freak's way of covering themselves. So when they come out with the Gen 9 games and they come up with a new gimmick, they can easily just hand-wave why they're not doing Dynamaxing again. I'm pretty sure I can see that coming. We'll see what they do, or they come up with some sort of bullshit reason to bring back Dynamaxing, but something tells me they won't, or if they do, it's going to be kind of ham-fisted. And again, it's just going to be another hand wave thing. It's like, oh yes, this new region can also do Dynamaxing because of reasons. Just to bring back Dynamaxing because I guess maybe enough people liked it enough from Sword and Shield. But whatever. To me, it's a gimmick. And not a very brilliant one either. Last thing I'll say, and this is the obvious one, Dexit. I'm not going to get too into this. There's so much evidence online for why Dexit was a dumb thing. Game Freak originally said they were cutting the majority of Pokemon from Sword and Shield, to improve quality animations for the Pokemon. But if you play Sword and Shield, that's a lie. You can even compare it back to like Pokemon Stadium and Stadium 2 back on the N64, or even the GameCube games Coliseum and Gale of Darkness. The animations in all those games were much better. So that was very clearly a lie. If you look at any of the games, especially like the infamous Double Jump that Score Bunny has, and then you look at Double Jump back in the N64 games, and it's like what Tony Stark said in the Avengers. I'm sorry, Game Freak. What were you lying exactly? Then Game Freak gave the explanation that they cut Pokemon for balancing issues. They didn't want the competitive balancing in Sword and Shield to be, unbalanced. Everyone's just using the most powerful Pokemon from the previous generations. But then Game Freak announced they actually are going to add back a little over 200 of the missing Pokemon, apparently including all legendaries, to Sword and Shield. It's supposed to be part of a free update that's coming out sometime soon to coincide with the DLC that's going to come out, but not exactly a part of it. And wouldn't you know it, one of the Pokemon that they're adding back is Landorus, a Pokemon that was heavily abused in the competitive battling scene. And in fact, I think I saw something once that said that Landorus actually is the most used Pokemon in competitive battling, at least in the overused tier, not the Uber tiers exactly, but yeah, Landorus, the most used Pokemon in competitive battling. That's making a comeback, even though Game Freak said they cut the majority of Pokemon for balancing issues. I'll say this, you cannot tell me that Game Freak cares about balance when Mega Rayquaza exists. In case you didn't know, Mega Rayquaza is the first, and I think at this point, only Pokemon to ever be Mega banned. It can never be used in like official tournaments by Nintendo, and like Smogon tournaments, or even like just casual play with you and your friends. I mean, obviously, if it's casual play with you and your friends, you can make up whatever rules you want. But like Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza was on everyone's radar, and everyone pretty much said no, never ever used that monster. Since that exists, you can't tell me that Game Freak cares about balancing. Now, all of that said, eventually when Pokemon Home did finally roll out, I did transfer all my Pokemon over to it, and then transferred what I could over to Sword, to Sword, and that's the game I have. Honest reason though is because the Pokemon games have, I'll be honest, that's another thing, the Pokemon games have kind of gotten a bit stale at this point, I think. Sword and Shield were okay games. I know what I said I liked and didn't like, but I think overall I was kind of bored with Sword. Kind of a run-of-the-mill game at this point. It really just didn't grab my attention like other games did. Like, I wasn't excited over it like I was for so many other Pokemon games. Which I think is probably a sign that Game Freak's formula is kind of going stale at this point. And, with the whole Dexter situation, like, regardless of their answers for it, it's becoming apparent that Game Freak really needs to change things up a bit for the games, for the entire franchise. The main series, at least. Because thus far, Sword and Shield, to me, were okay. Nothing really spectacular. Not for me, at least. So I brought all my Pokemon over from Pokemon Sun and Ultra Sun, put them into Home, took what I could from Home, put it into Sword. Mainly because the real reason, honestly, was because I haven't picked up Sun and Ultra Sun in so long because the battle tree, the watered down battle tower that they have in the games, not enough to keep my attention. So I haven't played the games in a long time. So I said, fuck it. I can't not use them anyway. So let's go ahead and put them in Pokemon Home, I guess. Hopefully they'll add all the Pokemon back. This new update adds over 200 Pokemon back, and that's still around 200 Pokemon missing. But hopefully they add all of them in at some point. But at this point, it kind of didn't matter to me. Not much, anyway. A lot of my longtime favorites I can't use in Sword, unfortunately. But I don't care that much right now, since I can't use them anyway. Since I haven't been using them anyway in the 3DS games, I mean. So, I guess that's it. I did like the changes that they made here and there, like the whole tournament thing. I would say I'm disappointed that there is no Elite Four for the Galar region. Which kind of makes it kind of funny. That puts in contrast with Alola just right before it. The Alola region is the only region without any gym leaders, but Galar is the only region without an Elite Four. Interesting. But you know, I like the changes that they made here and there. Some changes I didn't like. I didn't like Hop, for instance. God damn, he's fucking annoying. I hate him so much. I think I hate him more than How. I think. I hate them both equally, I'll say that. But anyway, my point is, overall, Pokemon Sword was an okay experience. It's an okay game. If you're a Pokemon fan, you'll have a decent time with it. If you're not a Pokemon fan, honestly, Gen 8 probably isn't going to change your mind. If you didn't like Pokemon before, this isn't going to change your mind. You're not going to have too much fun with this. If you're new to the series, well, I mean, you can't go wrong with Sword, I guess. Sword and Shield, I guess, but there have been better games in the past. Hopefully, we get, I guess, Diamond and Pearl remakes, or maybe we get a better Gen 9 coming in the future. Considering it's Game Freak at the helm of the series, though, the main series at least, I kind of doubt that. We'll see what happens, though. So, until then, until whatever happens, I'll talk to you guys later.